I'm Dante Hickman, pastor of the Southern Baptist Church, and it is my honor and privilege on behalf of the leadership and the membership of our church, as well as our CDCs, to welcome all of you to the Southern Baptist Church for this very important and critical meeting. I just want to say by word of remark that after having been the pastor of this church for more than 17 years and seeing so much of the dilapidation in this community that existed a decade or two before I had arrived, that the Neighborhood Impact Investment Fund are the kinds of funding sources that we need to really make a restorative difference in our inner city communities. And I'm grateful for the privilege to have worked with Mark Kaufman and for this wonderful team, Lori Glass and others. I've never seen a funding process work so smoothly and so swiftly. And City First Bank is threatening. They say, Pastor, you ain't seen nothing yet. So I want to just say welcome to all of you. Normally, I would tell people in our church to shake hands and tell somebody I'm glad to be sitting next to you, but we're in the midst of the coronavirus. Just elbow somebody and just tell them I'm glad to be sitting next to you. I want to present and introduce our wonderful friend, a great leader in our community, Mr. Arnold Williams, who has proven to be a very reputable and respected leader across many disciplines in our city and in our country. And all of the pastors and churches love Arnold Williams because he keeps all of us financially stable and enables us to build according to our visions all over the city, all over the state, all over the country. I'm blessed to have him as a member of our church. He is our accountant and my personal advisor. And I'm just grateful to God that Arnold can't preach, because if he could, he'd be the pastor of Southern Baptist Church. Would you put your hands together and welcome Mr. Arnold Williams?
If you noticed, he shook my hand. Good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of the NIF Board of Directors, I too want to welcome you here today. This is for NIF a celebration of a one-year anniversary. And in this celebration of a one-year anniversary, it's also a reporting out. We wanted to be able to report to the community the good and the bad as it relates to NIF. You will leave today hearing no bad, but we want you to know that that's part of the agenda as well. It gives me also a great pleasure to just acknowledge, and he will be introduce the mayor of the city of Baltimore, who has supported the creation of NIF in a marvelous manner. And we say thank you, Mayor Young, for your support. My role today is also to bring up Mark Kaufman, but before I do that, I'd just like to take a couple of personal privileges. And the first privilege is if any of the board of directors of NIF are in the audience, like Dana Johnson, will you please stand just so that everyone may see who you are? Thank you very much. I would also say to you that there were two people who called me about the NIF board, and the two people that personally called me, and I just wanted to acknowledge their presence, was Jim Smith, the Honorable Jim Smith, who's in the room, as well as Colin Talbert. And when those two people call, you just say yes, where? And so I again thank you and acknowledge your presence. There will be others whose presence we will also acknowledge. And at this time, it really just give to me great pleasure to introduce Mark Huffman, who is the Executive Director and President of NIF. Mark is a native Baltimorean. He has great history in the financial community as well as policy, including stints both in Maryland. He also worked for the President Obama administration. His last stop before NIF was working in Washington, D.C. at City First Bank. And Mark's knowledge, his mannerisms, his never sleeping, always thinking about how to solve the next problem is good for the communities of Baltimore. And if it's one thing you need to know about Mark, is that he loves Baltimore City. Mark.
Thank you, Arnold, and thanks everybody for coming. It's a pleasure to be here today and to provide you an update on the Neighborhood Impact Investment Fund, or NIF as we've come to refer to it. This is truly an innovative and bold effort, particularly by the city, to help transform our communities and neighborhoods around the city. It's been an honor to try to help stand up and lead this organization. As Arnold mentioned, I'm born and raised here and spent pretty much my whole career here, so I do care deeply about the city and really want to see this succeed. Let me give you a sense of our goal for today. At one level, as a new fund, and as Arnold mentioned, a fund with public support, we want to be transparent and informative about what we're doing and why we're doing it. But it's really more than that. My hope is also by showing some initial examples of what we're doing, and to be clear, we're a lot closer to the first inning than the ninth inning of this game. But by showing some initial examples, we can be more than transparent, but also hopefully provide examples of the kinds of things we can do to spur other ideas, spur other activities, and identify other opportunities for this fund, because we've really just scratched the surface, and that's what we need to do. As mentioned, I do want to thank Pastor Hickman for hosting us today. As he mentioned, in addition to being a great leader in the community, he is also a client. So we're thrilled to be working with Southern Baptist on a project, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I want to thank the board members, Chairman Williams, Dana, all our members from the city who have worked very hard for no pay and have really been both supporters, advisors, and mentors for me as we stand up the fund. And most importantly, I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to introduce and to have Mayor Young here today. Played a critical role in creating this fund, and he has supported it every step of the way as mayor. And we're very grateful for that. I thought before we have Mayor Young come and speak, it would be helpful to provide a little bit of background, and I'll do that very briefly. If I could get the next slide, please. Attracting capital into neighborhoods has been a key priority for the city for several years now. As the mayor has made clear, as I think we all know, the city can't succeed if only downtown or Port Covington or Canton succeed. We need neighborhoods around the city to succeed as well. And it's in that context that the city worked to create a community development strategy led by Commissioner Braverman, who's here from the Department of Housing and Community Development. They've come up with a clearly articulated strategy that's on their website. I encourage any of you that haven't read it to read it, but focusing on neighborhoods around the city. And as part of that, there's several new tools: the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is coming online, the Catalyst Grant Program, which came online this year and provided both capital and operating support for capacity. Project Core and our partners around the state, who obviously provide significant support for the activities that are going on in the city. The HUD Choice Neighborhoods Award in East Baltimore, which is critical to transforming the old Perkins Homes area, and the Neighborhood Impact Investment Fund. So if I get the next slide, please. So what is NIF? Again, it's a public-private partnership focused on community development. On the one hand, it's independent. We have a 13-member board. 10 of our members are independent citizens. Folks like Dana Johnson from TRF, Laurie Chapman, who runs the Enterprise Loan Fund, Arnold, Ernst Valerie, who's a developer in town. We really have assembled a terrific board that's helped to guide this fund. At the same time, we are intentionally and structurally aligned with the city. We have 3 members of our board, 2 of whom are with us today. Paul and Colin Tarbert are on the board, and we work very closely with the city to try to make sure what we are doing aligns with their priorities. This isn't going to work if we try to do this alone, nor should it work in opposition to what the city wants to do. We're a place-based fund. I'll talk a little bit about that, but we are 100% focused on neighborhoods in this city which have suffered from disinvestment for years. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we're able to secure outside support. We've had some success doing that, and we're looking forward to continuing to do so. We have a lot of flexibility as an independent enterprise in terms of the types of products we try to develop, and we want to try to take advantage of that to be impactful. And then most importantly of all, we have a significant capital base. We benefit from a $51.7 million loan from the city, which provides the base upon which we can do lending and investing activities. The city would like its money back at the end of 30 years, but it is a powerful resource. And of all the resources we have, that is a resource for which the mayor in particular has been distinctly involved. It was his vision to utilize city assets, in particular the parking garages, to source the capital for this fund. And it's that asset and that commitment and that money on the table is what makes this go. When I was at City First, I spoke to the city about what they were trying to do and walked out with a couple of my colleagues who said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I've lived here my whole life. I think it sounds great. They'll never find $50 million. Let's go." And because of the leadership of the city, because of the mayor, and because of some creativity, they found the $50 million. And so it's our job to put it to work and to bring that vision to reality. But it's that vision that makes this go. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor Young. I'd love if you come up and make a few comments for us. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to everyone. Those of you who have your Bible, if you can turn to Romans 12, verse 4 to 5. Oh, I forgot, I'm not here for church. Okay, sorry about that. But good afternoon again. I'd like to recognize Councilman Leon Pinkett that have joined us. Any more elected officials? Kathy Christian from Councilman Stokes' office, great to see you. To the chair, the CEO of NIF, Mark Kaufman, Arnold Williams, the board chair, and Lori Glass, the chief lending officer, and of course, my student, Bishop Dante Hickman from Southern Baptist Church. That's just an inside joke with me and him. Well, anyway, first, thank you, Bishop Hickman, for hosting us today. I'm pleased to be here as the new Neighborhood Impact Investment Fund, known as NIF, hosts its first community investment update. The funds will discuss its progress to date and highlight its initial investment. In that way, this represents a key next step in realizing a vision that I've worked to shape over several years. As council president, I led our efforts to free up resources that were tied up in non-productive assets like our parking garages, and to use that capital to benefit our neighborhoods. In total, we raised over $50 million through the transaction. And I worked to establish NIF as a 501c3 to work in partnership with and to leverage those funds and deliver that capital that can drive impact and improve lives. Increasingly, we are starting to see the returns on that $50 million commitment. While investment flows in our downtown area and along the waterfront, too many neighborhoods in our city have suffered from disinvestment for decades. With a legacy of segregation and racism, these communities have been starving for capital and struggle to this day. By design, NIF is focused on meeting this need. 100% of this investment is focused on neighborhoods comprising roughly 2/3 of our city, neighborhoods which have been ignored for far too long. Today, we will hear about NIF's initial investment and the work that has been done so far. These are transformative investments where NIF is playing a key role in making projects work. This is just the beginning. At the city, we are working in partnership with NIF to build on this momentum. We are working in partnership with local nonprofits, and we're working with our state partners, all to accelerate activities in our city and in particular, our neighborhoods. 3 senior staff members serve on the board of NIF: Jay Green, the Chief Operating Officer at the Department of Housing and Community Development; Colin Talbert, CEO of Baltimore Development Corporation; and Paul Taylor, Director of the Mayor's Office of Minority and Women-Owned Businesses. I want to thank them all for their service. And I want to thank the independent members of the NIF board led by Chairman Arnold Williams. Your time, your knowledge, and your commitment are critical to making NIF successful. Thanks to everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to today being only the beginning of what's to come. And again, I want to thank everybody for your hard work. Thank you for even volunteering your time, because a lot of them volunteer their time to do this work. They don't get paid for doing this. And I want to thank our community partners, Commissioner Braverman, I see you out there, because we can't do this alone. We need everybody to work together to deliver for our neighborhoods that haven't seen investment in decades. So I just want to again say thank you, thank you, thank you. Looking forward to some more great things happening in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We could pick the slides forward. So let me pick up, turning to what NIF has been doing. Let me start with how we operate. As I mentioned, we are a 100% place-based fund. So the fund is eligible to invest in about 65% of the city. You can see the map up on the screen. For those of you that have grown up here, this map will be no surprise to anybody. In the words of Morgan State Professor Lawrence Brown, this is the black butterfly, but it is obviously the areas to the east and west sides of the city which have struggled for investment for so long. These are areas that are a little over 80% minority population. And that number's important, given the legacy of segregation and discrimination we have in our city. Attracting investment in these communities continues to be a problem. According to the Urban Institute a year and a half ago, neighborhoods in our city that have more than 85% minority population attract about 1/4 as much investment as those that have 50% minority population. So the intentional focus of this fund is to try to bring capital and to try to unlock resources as part of transactions in those communities. I should note that there's a lot of buzz about opportunity zones. There are 42 opportunity zones in the city. The city did try to align NIF with those zones, so 40 of the 42 opportunity zones in Baltimore are within the NIF footprint, and we're working with BDC and its opportunity zone coordinator to try to see if we can maximize those resources as well. Within the yellow areas, there's 4 green impact investment areas. This is part of the city's community development strategy. These are areas that are contiguous to areas of strength, that have significant development opportunities, that are contiguous to anchors, and that are real focuses for city resources. It's important for us. We try to align obviously our strategies around their strategies. It's also important, I think, from a transparency and accountability standpoint. We are a flexible fund. We have independence, but I've spent 10 years in government now. Before this, I get it. One guy's speed and flexibility is another person's lack of accountability and transparency. We need to follow a strategy that's articulated and implemented by the city, and that's the strategy we are trying to work in alignment with. And so through that strategy, I think over time, you will see a concentration of transactions in those areas. And in fact, you should see a concentration of transactions in those areas. We can't do it alone. None of us in this room can do it alone. So if those are the focus areas, those are where the activity is going to be. Next slide, please. In terms of how we go about selecting investments and impact criteria, obviously there's a threshold question that if it's not in our footprint, we can't invest in it. So we're looking for transactions, obviously, that are within this footprint. We're also looking for transactions or for a role to fill a role in a transaction where there is not otherwise capital available. So we're not looking to replace commercial funding or other funding that's available with cheap funding from the Neighborhood Impact Investment Fund. The goal of this fund is to leverage outside capital, not displace it. So that's a key criteria for us. Finally, and then from an impact standpoint, we look at 4, at least out of the box, as a board, we've approved these strategies. We look at 4 criteria. We're trying to hit more than one of them. Most importantly is the project or the investment support inclusive, equitable growth, in some fashion, affordable housing, wealth creation, and so forth. Is it aligned with either a community strategy or the city's broader strategy? And that's where those 4 key areas come in. They're not we don't have a nominal target, but it does provide a notional sense of strategy that we can follow. Does it support a community asset or a green shoot, for lack of a better word, but something that we can hopefully that more can grow as a result of, and we'll talk about some of the initial investments we've made, I think highlight that. And then does it leverage another community development financial institution or mission provider in the city? That was important to me. We're not a city with a ton of community development financial institutions. I spent some time at City First working with them as they try to do more here, but we're not overrun. We want to make sure we're working with the providers that are here and building their capacity, not displacing them and driving people out of town. So that's another key criteria for us. Next slide, please. In terms of products, we have an initial set of products. You'll see on this list, the first three are largely, and a lot of what we've done is real estate focused. That's by design for a couple of reasons. First, from a size and scale perspective, the ability to get dollars out the door at scale, given the size of the fund, is easier in real estate related transactions. Obviously, there's a little more security there as well. And finally, for better or for worse, much of the way we transmit subsidy in this country is through real estate. So be it new market tax credits, low-income housing tax credit, the tools that we have left, for lack of a better word, the tools that we have are largely real estate based, and we are trying to leverage those resources as we work. So we offer pre-development loans. We're able to do pre-development funding to help projects get started, to help projects in the planning stage, and we'll talk about those. We've done one of those already. We can do subordinate lending, so we can bring subordinate capital to transactions to complement senior lenders who may only be able to go so far, and the deal needs 90% and the bank will do 80% or 75%. We are able to come in and do the subordinate piece of capital to try to unlock that transaction. We think that's powerful. We've had some success with that. We can do bridge lending, and we'll talk about some examples there. Initially, we've had reasonable success doing bridge lending, particularly for pre-funded grant commitments or longer-term funding commitments where obviously we have liquidity. And so to the extent that we can accelerate activity, we think that's a powerful resource. Certainly, in my experience, that in Baltimore, until every dollar's on the table, nobody moves. And so one of the things we're trying to do is make sure that we can get the dollars to the table earlier so that the transaction can go forward. We've also done some more partnership-based investments in terms of our ability to lend to CDFIs, as well as to enter into sort of partnership investing in fund structures to reach pieces of the market that we can't really reach as a small fund, smallly staffed fund. And we can go through a couple examples there as well. Next slide, please. So what have we done to date? I joined, I think as was mentioned, I joined in October of last year. We were legally organized at the end of November. The board met for the first time. We closed our loan with the city. The Board of Estimates gave final approval for NIF in December. We were funded basically January 1st. So we've been at this now for, call it 13 plus months, 14 months. We spent the first several months putting together initial controls and processes, some initial products, being able to answer basic questions like how much money will you lend in a given project, or how long will you lend the money for in a given project. So we did to build some initial products that we could get out in the market and then try to work, which is part of what this is about, to figure out how to get those products to work in this market. And then if we're lucky, run that play again and again and again. So we did a $14 million bank deal to provide additional liquidity and funding for the NIF that's led by M&T and a consortium of local banks. We were fortunate enough to receive 3 years of operating support, a 3-year operating commitment from Bloomberg Philanthropies to help defray the operating cost of the fund, which is obviously terrific. In addition to helping support the fund, it allows us to have the earnings accumulate to provide loss cushion for the lending activities that we have. So that's a big plus for us. And then most importantly, to date, we've closed 6. I think we're going to close another one next week. 6 transactions in the city, committed about $7.2 million. So it's not a huge amount, but we're off and running, and we think these are hopefully the examples and the kinds of things we can do and build on in the future. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce my partner in this, Laurie Glass, who serves as our Chief Lending Officer. I thought it'd be a good idea for her to take you through a couple of the transactions that we've done. Laurie?
Let's give Mark a hand, and whoever said he works 24/7, they were right. and I get a lot of those emails. So, thank you to the mayor for being here, for your support. Thank you, board chair Arnold Williams, for all that you do, and thank you, Mark, for working with me as we go out in the market to work to revitalize communities. My name is Lori Glass. I'm the Chief Lending Officer, and I have worked in community development for at least 15 years, maybe 20. I've spent my entire career working in this field, and my work is driven by a set of beliefs I have. That set of beliefs include that all citizens should have access to affordable housing, both rental and home ownership. My belief is that all citizens should have in their neighborhood access to primary care facilities. They should have access to food stores and other retail services. And I also believe in the power of private and public capital to work together with public subsidy to encourage local communities to not only be strong and growing, but to be a place where we convene as family members and continue to live out our lives. So with that, I met Mark maybe a year ago, and he did a really, really great job of explaining his vision to me about the Neighborhood Impact Investment Fund. And I have faith that the fund, with its $50 million, would deliver on the promises of creating impact in communities. So with that faith, I joined, and 14 months later, we have been really successful, gotten off to a really good start with some of our projects. So with great joy, I am going to present some of the projects that we've invested in. Kevin, next slide, please. So I'd like to begin with Perkins Homes, which is an affordable housing project. And Perkins Homes is we made a $425,000 loan alongside our partner, the Reinvestment Fund. These funds are used for pre-development of a project that has the ability, when completed, to transform a high-poverty neighborhood into one that is a mixed-income community with all of the community amenities that we love to have in healthy neighborhoods. The Perkins Home Project is one of the many projects across the country that are part of the Choice Neighborhood Initiative. And the Choice Neighborhood Initiative has an aim to transform distressed public housing and high-poverty neighborhoods, similar to the site of Perkins Home, into mixed income neighborhoods with minimal displacement. So that was a key as we look to develop a relationship with our client, McCormick Barron. As part of their proposal, they did commit to provide one-to-one replacement to residents that were living at Perkins Home, thereby protecting the residents that were there from displacement. This project is aligned with NIF's one of NIF's core goals of supporting place-based strategies to support projects that reduce concentrated poverty. And of course, we'd like to be able to do more deals like this. The loan itself is a pre-development loan. If you look at the development timeline, the pre-development loan is that very, very early stage funding that's needed to pave the way to construction. This loan, McCormick Barron is the developer and our client, and they also believe in this notion of transforming high poverty communities into mixed income communities. The project manager for this project is a sister named Sasha Angus. She's worked in urban development for over 15 years, and we have been, it's been our pleasure to work with us to move towards the development process, the pre-development process being finished for the Perkins Home Phase 1 project. Kevin, next slide, please. Thank you. Village Center is a mixed-use retail, medical, and office space building with senior housing. The retail and medical space is on the first floor, and senior housing is above it. Our borrower for this project is Gedco, Nicole Battle, and this was the first deal that we did. So this holds, a special place in my heart. I told Nicole when she walked in, I might ask you to get up and talk, but if you are going to the reception and you have an opportunity to talk with Nicole or any of our clients, I would encourage you to learn from them how the process went with them to move from a loan inquiry to an actual loan being funded. So Nicole Gedco is the master developer for the 30-acre site that was formerly the stadium. And she's worked for years to get retail on a space. And if you just think about, a 30-acre site, 6 buildings, all seniors, some low income, some low income, some market units, and there is no retail, this was not a good thing, and it was something that her community really pushed for, and she was able to get this done with the Village Center at Stadium Place project. One of the other clients, co-developer, was commercial. I don't know if Catherine Stokes is here. Oh, hi. How are you? So, this project was a long time coming. It's a new market tax credit project. And just one comment on new market tax credits. So NIF purchased a participation from the Baltimore Community Loan Fund to make its investment in this project. And this project has a new market tax credit subsidy of $3.7 million. And this is money that does not have to be repaid. And the idea of NIF working along with all of the other financing entities that you'll see on the lower right-hand side of the slide, we think that we played a key role in organizing some of this money. And we do view our role not only as a lender, but also as a group that helps to organize subsidy sources from other different programs, be they federal, city, or local. Our participation was a $750,000 loan. If you're a developer and you're trying to cobble together all of the sources of funds needed for a project, you'll know that sometimes you'll hit that LTV, that loan to value that says, you can borrow no more than 80% of the value. So the role that NIF played here is that we were able to work with the senior lenders on a subordinate basis. You see that at the top, subordinate construction mini-perm loan. So the bank was willing to provide 80%. We came in as a source of subordinate debt and provided an additional 15% that enabled this project to go forward, and thereby keeping that $3.7 million new market tax credit subsidy here in the city of Baltimore. Because as you may know, the new market tax credit program is a national program, and the credits really do follow the projects. So if this project was not able to use the tax credit, the allocatees could have taken this to another project. But we're very happy that we were able to keep it here in the city of Baltimore. And without getting too much in the weeds, we did provide a leverage loan. That loan is structured as a 7-year loan. First 2 years are construction. It converts to a permanent loan. And leverage loans are often the most difficult part of the capital stack to fill. And NIF was able to fill that. So I encourage you, if you're talking with groups here in the city or outside and they're looking at a project here in Baltimore, that the NIF fund is a source of leverage loans for the new market tax credit program. So Deidre Presley and Boyd Miller are representatives from Baltimore Community Loan Fund, and they also joined us here. Thank you for the partnership. Next slide, Kevin. Our next project is Paul's Place. And happy to have Bill McLennan in the house. He is the executive director for Paul's Place, located in Pigtown. And I'm happy to say, this is not on the slide, but they are pouring the concrete slab on Monday. So, it took a long time to get to that place, but we are very excited about this news. Groundworks Kitchen is a new program being developed by Paul's Place. Paul's Place has been in Pigtown for decades, and it provides social services to a very high-need population, not just in Pigtown, but across the city. And their new initiative is the Kitchen Culinary Center. This program is a training program for those that are interested in culinary arts. And not only is it a training program for hard-to-employ individuals, but it also will have wraparound services or case management for those in the social service business. Your case manager works one-on-one with a trainee and helps them to solve problems like affordable housing, like addiction, like primary health care, all of those things that are sometimes barriers to employment. So the fact that each trainee at this Paul's Place project will be paired with a case manager really, pushes the potential impact of this project to make a difference in lives of people that go through the program. So we are thrilled to be providing the construction debt for this project. Bill McLennan spent 5 years maybe raising capital for this project, and he raised a lot of capital. Some of it was promised to come in 2018, some in 2019, some in 2022. In order for him to begin the project and to be at a place where he could pour concrete on Monday, NIF provided a bridge loan to him based on the fact that he had these receivables that would be coming to the project in over a 3-year period. So we were able to look at the sources of grant funding from foundations, from city agencies, state agency, and individual donors, and to make a loan sized relative to his campaign donations and fundraising. So this is another way that we seek to, at NIF, to not only provide capital, but also to accelerate projects. Because as you know, community development projects oftentimes are 5, 7, 10 years on the books before we actually see the building and we actually see the housing or the services delivered to our citizens. Our role as a bridge lender allows us to help accelerate that project. And so we were happy to be able to provide this financing. Again, our financing partners are listed here. We work most closely with Enterprise Community Loan Fund because along with Enterprise, NIF was the second source of hard debt, like really, debt that you have to pay on this project. All of the other sources were subsidy-like in form. And so you'll see Sinair, you'll see JP Morgan Chase, the community builders. All of these were the new market tax credit financing entities that we worked with. And then, of course, there was subsidy in the form of grants from both the state and the Baltimore City Department of Health, Housing, and Community Services. This loan is 18 months. We're being repaid as Paul's Place receives the donations and grants. So next slide, Kevin. This is the fourth project, and this is the fourth direct loan that I'll talk about, and then I'll turn it over to Mark. And let me acknowledge Pastor Hickman is still here. He's not only our host, but as Mark commented, he's also our client. Obviously, Mary Harwin CDC and Southern Baptist Church are anchors in the Broadway East community. And our client, Mary Harwin CDC, is aligned with with NIF's place-based strategy to invest in comprehensive neighborhood redevelopment. And we are proud to have Mary Harwin CDC as a client. The Southern Streams Health and Wellness Center is a mixed-use facility. It'll include, most notably, healthcare services, but also commercial and community space. A key benefit for residents of the Broadway East community will be that the anchor tenant is Johns Hopkins, and they will provide primary care and community health services. They're estimating to 15,000 patients per year. Combined with investments that are being made in nearby residential projects, this wellness center is a part of that place-based comprehensive strategy that is focused on investments in the Broadway East community. And I'd be remiss to say, I see Michael Braverman sitting here as well. The city is strongly focused on coordinating investments in this community as well. So acknowledgement there. Our loan to the Mary Harwin CDC is a $1 million pre-development loan. And again, it's the very early stages of the development timeline. The monies are being used for expenses, for example, architectural and engineering costs. All of those costs that nonprofits and some for-profits do not have the ability to finance out of pocket so that they can move the project forward to a state of readiness. And for Southern Wellness Center and Health Center, being in a place of construction readiness is critically important if they are to be competitively positioned to capture other sources of subsidy, including new market tax credits. So the CDC did receive grants from Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. And again, those grants were multi-year grants. We were able to begin today to fund those costs of pre-development in anticipation of the grant proceeds that will be received sometime in the future. So very great project, and we're thrilled to be providing the funding for that. So as closing, as chief lender for NIF, along me and Mark as CEO, we think you'll agree that these are pretty powerful projects. They have the potential to deliver significant impact to Baltimore's neighborhoods. However, we have much more work to do. I presented these as examples of the types of loans that we can make, just as much as to highlight the projects themselves. But I want you all to be thinking that if it's pre-development, if it's construction, bridge, permanent loans, that we are a source of funding and that we are willing to work with you as you move through your project. Thank you for your time, and more to come, and we'll see you here 12 months from now. Mark, you ready to wrap up? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Larry. Kevin, if you could flip the slide. Real quickly, in addition to direct lending, there's obviously pieces of the market that we're not well set up to target. We've made, and partnering on those kinds of initiatives is something we really want to try to do. We've made two initial investments that are sort of down that fairway. One is a loan to Baltimore Community Lending. Folks are here from Baltimore Community Lending. BCL has been a CDFI in this market for 30 years, working deeply with small developers in particular. We made a loan to BCL really that would fund two pieces of their activity. One, that core small developer lending, which is so important and which they are so both well positioned and historically good at doing. And then they've also, over the last 2 years, started a business lending subsidiary, Baltimore Business Lending, to make small business loans, which are critically needed in this city. So we were pleased to have half of our loan. We made a $1 million commitment to that initiative as well. I think we may be the largest lender, but to support that initiative, which couldn't be more important. Those are small loans. They're difficult to do, and we were pleased to be able to support them in that effort. Next slide, please. And then the other, sort of at the other end of the small business spectrum, we made an investment in a fund called Arcturus, which you'll be hearing more about. Arcturus is a national fund, national impact lender. They've been around. I knew them when I was at Treasury. Operating impact loan funds. They focus on SBA small business loans, but very large, the very large side of the SBA continuum, loans that are $1 to $5 million. We made a $1 million commitment to this fund alongside a $4 million anchor commitment from the Able Foundation. Those funds will be matched 5 to 1, so it's a $25 million Baltimore-focused loan program. Has dedicated local staff. Anita Graham is here today, and is on site trying to get out and identify those opportunities. As I mentioned, NIF is place-based, so by our participation, a meaningful portion, upwards of 40+% of those funds for the fund to be fully deployed, need to be deployed in the NIF footprint. So in addition to looking for opportunities to catalyze larger small businesses in Baltimore City in general, there is a meaningful focus on the communities of which that's frankly the hardest to do. So we're very pleased to be involved there as well. The next slide, please. We have a website. Please go to it. Most importantly, it has a GIS searchable map. You can put in any address and see if it's NIF eligible. So there's other information on the site, but it's www. I feel like a candidate asking for presidential donations, but it's www.baltimorenif.org. Please go to it and consider it a resource. And lastly, finally, we mentioned we have a big board full of people who are out and in the community. Several of them are here today. Arnold, Dana, our city board representatives. We really thank them immensely for their time and leadership. You all have copies. Laurie and my information is in there. Please call us or email us, and we appreciate the time. We have a relatively small group and a lot of folks from our side here today, so we have cookies and so forth and refreshments for folks downstairs if you have time. Would be pleased to hang around and chat with anyone, with any of us. Thank you very much for your time and look forward to working together.